Previously on Baldur's Gate.
I was wondering if I could stay with you for a while. For your protection, as well as mine. I swear, I'm quite a skilled spellcaster. I can hurl a fireball like you wouldn't believe.
Greetings. I am Kagan. What can I do for you?
There will be a bounty placed upon the head of the mad cleric Basilisk for the crimes against nature which he has committed. Anyone bringing proof of his demise to the Song of the Warning Temple shall receive no less than 5,000 gold. Hear ye, hear ye!
You really know how to get someone to open up. Why, yes, let me just share intimate details about my past. You put me right at ease. Come, let us continue this journey together.
The paladin, thief, and wild mage make their way south across the arid plateau with the intention of reaching the Nashkel mines. Along the way to the south, they stop in an area of land called Ulcaster's School. With the fallen dwarf Kagan still slung across Gorilla's back, they arrive, after a 4-hour journey, to a dry, rocky area surrounded by cliffs.
Yes?
We make our way down a jagged trail, passing by a patch of dried grass here and there. Suddenly, a lone kobold emerges from the top of a plateau and fires an arrow at Nira, wounding her for 5 missile damage. As the kobold snarls and yips with triumph, Imoen quickly returns fire and takes out the kobold for 7 missile damage.
You're a queer fellow.
It will be done.
After tending to Nira's wounds, we continue down the trail and notice a group of skeletons waiting at a choke point. The party falls back, and Gorilla lures out one of the skeletons from the group, isolating it from its companions. The first skeleton is armed with a stone hammer, and is joined by a second kobold from behind them, who fires at Gorilla. Imoen turns her attention to the kobold. Gorilla takes out the skeleton with 9 damage. Meanwhile, the kobold dodges a critical hit from Imoen, but is charged by Nira, who clubs it with her staff, finishing it off with 6 crushing damage. Gorilla lures out the other skeletons, and although Imoen's and Gorilla's attacks do a fraction of their normal damage to skeletons, they quickly overpower the enemy and continue down the winding, rugged trail.
Yes?
At the base of the mountain, we notice a dwarf standing by a lone dry tree.
You're rather outlandish folk to be wandering round here.
Wayfarers, wait up a moment. I wish to have a word with you. You are adventurers, are you not?
Indeed, we are. Why should you care?
Ah, that's good then. You see, I'm an adventurer of sorts. Of course, I'm not very fond of battles. I like to pilfer objects from ruins and monsters' lairs, and try my best to avoid getting hurt. Anyway, I have something that might interest you. I have a gem in my possession, a magical gem. I have no use for it, and I can't get the price I'm looking for from anyone I've met. Would you perhaps be interested?
Perhaps you can tell us what the gem does.
Of course. It's a gem of true seeing. It allows you to see the truth in all things. So do you want it? I'm selling it for 1,000 gold. No more, no less.
We consider the circumstances, the dwarf being out here alone, and the claims he's making about the gem.
Sorry, that's a little too pricey for us.
Oh, it's too bad you couldn't see the obvious.
Furette runs off, and we continue down the bumpy trails in the cliffs.
Yeah, it will be done. I stand
As a
ready.
thunderstorm brews above, we encounter a lone goblin.
You be quiet.
This way.
Yes, it will be done. I stand with ease. With ease. Yes?
My blade will cut you down to size.
The party makes quick work of him, and we loot a spell named Melf's Acid Arrow. Nira has a look at the spell, Melf's Acid Arrow. By means of this spell, the wizard creates a magical arrow that speeds to his target unerringly. The arrow has no attack or damage bonus, but inflicts 2d4 points of acid damage. When we find the new spell, we have a chance to write the magic into our spellbook. At times it succeeds, and at times it fails. When it fails, the scroll is gone for good. Nira makes an attempt to write Melf's Acid Arrow. We succeed, and Nira learns the spell. The party has gained 20 experience. In her backpack are a few other spell scrolls, which we've been holding on to. So Nira attempts to write another. It's Larlock's Minor Drain, which was the HP drain spell that our fallen companion Zar was versed in. We have good fortune today, and Nira succeeds in copying it into her spellbook. As we reach the bottom of the mountain path, a hawk circles
I
above.
stand ready.
The base of the mountain leads to an open, quiet area of land.
Not a problem.
We follow another trail, which leads to a second cliff,
Yes?
which we need to scale to continue onward. The upward path is even narrower than before, and the cliffs are sharp and jagged here. From the plateau above, arrows whiz past Gorilla. We take cover behind one of the cliff walls and make our way up toward the enemy. As Gorilla gets grazed by an arrow for 3 damage, we see that it's 2 kobold commandos, an enemy which we haven't encountered before. They resemble miniature demons, with their red skin, pointed ears, and long tail. As they celebrate, Imoen fires back and tags a kobold for 1 damage. Gorilla and Nira close the gap, and Gorilla slashes one out with 10 damage. As they continue to battle with the final kobold, Gorilla takes 5 piercing damage, sending his health into critical status. Imoen fires and cripples it for 6 damage, then shoots it again for 3 damage, ending the battle.
It will be done.
Imoen loots 2 unidentified arrows, and we continue across the plateau, seeking a place to rest. It leads to a dead end, so we continue back down the base of the mountain and up another trail.
Yes?
This trail widens into an area where 2 hobgoblins await us. At this point, a battle is imminent, and we get into formation. Imoen fires, and the hobgoblins charge. As they reach Gorilla and Imoen, Gorilla lands a powerful critical for 15 damage, sending its limbs flying in different directions. Nira connects with 4 crush from her staff, and Gorilla finishes it off with 12 slashing. 35 experience per enemy, and we loot a little gold, before deciding to rest before continuing onward. Our rest is cut short by an ambush, and we find ourselves facing down 8 kobolds, with Gorilla still at critical health. Imoen, who was posted away from the party in case of an attack, fires and takes one out immediately.
Yes? I see.
Gorilla takes out another 2.
I could really use Tensor's floating bandage over here.
Nira takes 4 piercing damage, sending her in the red, as Gorilla takes out another. Gorilla takes an arrow for 3 missile damage from one of the kobolds, sending him near death at this point. He gains a second wind and takes out another. The final one trades attacks with Gorilla. But falls to Gorilla's blade after 8 slashing damage. The party loots gold,
What you want?
and Imoen loots arrows and jewelry.
You rang?
Nira loots a spell scroll entitled Grease. Before we attempt our rest once again, Nira has a look at the spell. Grease, level 1, area of effect, 15 feet radius. A grease spell covers a material surface with a slippery layer of fatty, greasy nature. Any creatures entering the area or caught in it when the spell is cast must save versus spell at +2 or slip and slide, unable to move effectively. Nira attempts to write the spell into her spellbook and succeeds, adding grease into her arsenal of tools. The party falls asleep. Uninterrupted this time, and wakes up to the sun setting at hour 21, still day 11. Gorilla heals Nira first, then himself, bringing his HP to 9
Not
out
a
of
problem.
42. Enough to carry on without wasting more time resting. Moving on, we find ourselves nearing the top of a cliff. A tiny path leads to an open grassy plain at the very top. Immediately upon reaching it, a group of skeleton archers open fire on us. Nira casts magic missile on one skeleton, frying him for 8 magic damage, and netting us 65 experience. Emo fires but does very little damage to the skeletons. Gorilla and Nira charge, and Gorilla takes 7 damage from one of their arrows. Nira lands a critical strike, crushing one for 14 damage. Another takes 7 slashing damage from Gorilla, but resists 7 damage. It again resists 5 damage, but dies from the remaining 6 damage. The final one takes damage from both Gorilla and Emoin, finishing it, and we earn 65 experience per skeleton. Now, dark out, Emoin loots numerous arrows before we proceed toward a series of tall stone walls, which intersect with one another. Inside one of the wall openings, we see a figure, what appears to be a ghost or specter. His name is Allcaster, and we approach.
Not a problem.
The best of school.
Is all the Phantom says when we attempt a conversation with him. Gorilla approaches once again.
Yes? Not a problem.
A storehouse of arcane knowledge.
We listen.
Lost. All lost. A common dungeon now. All for knowledge did we strive, nothing left. Hope would return with retrieval of the simplest tomes. Beneath the rubble, on the lowest of floors, return hope. History is so important.
Inside the stone walls, we see a hole leading underground, with a stone slab pushed aside allowing access. Before entering, we encounter a ghoul skulking about the small labyrinth. It attempts a critical strike, but misses.
My blade will cut you down to size.
Possibly frosty. Death!
And Gorilla returns the attack with 13 slashing damage. Then 13 again, killing it for 175 experience. We loot a single necklace and descend down into the Allcaster's school. A stairway leads to a series of murky, dark halls below, faintly lit only by torches attached to the walls. Our party is ill-equipped to handle these enemies at the moment, and we vow to return in the future, once we're fully prepared. We head back the way we came, and head further south toward the Nashkel mines, and toward our main objective. After a 16-hour uninterrupted journey, we arrive in the small town of Nashkel once again. This time, to speak with Minsk for the second time, who previously wished to join us when we had a full party. We find him in the same spot from before, gently petting his hamster. He looks up and notices us.
Cool one, son.
I knew you would return. Rejoin with Minsk and Boo, and we shall once more charge headlong into adventure and glory.
It's been quite the boring trip without you. Welcome back.
Let evil beware, lest it get a righteous boot betwixt the eyes. Onward!
Point, I punch.
The party has somehow gained 2 gold, and we have a look at our new party member. Minsk is a male human ranger. Neutral good. High strength at 18/93. Dexterity of 15. Constitution of 15. Intelligence of 8. Wisdom of 6. And charisma of 9. Minsk has a few abilities, such as move silently and hide in shadows, 25 and 20 respectively. He also has something we've not seen before. A racial enemy, Knowles. His weapon proficiencies are 2-handed swords, in which he has 2 points. He has 1 point in mace and 1 point in the longbow. Let's have a look at what the ranger class is exactly. The ranger is a warrior and a woodsman who is skilled with weapons, and is knowledgeable in the ways of the forest. The ranger often protects and guides lost travelers, and honest peasant folk. A ranger needs to be strong, and wise to the ways of nature to live a full life. They may wear helmets, may wear any armor, and use any weapon. May not exceed specialization of 2 slots in any weapon class. May achieves specialization of 2 slots in any fighting style, begins specialization of 2 slots in two-handed weapon style, and may place a 3rd slot into it, may select a racial enemy, granting a +4 bonus to hit and damage rolls against the selected enemy race, may use the Charm Animal ability once per day, gains 1 use at level 1, and an additional use every 2 levels thereafter, may use Hide and Shadows ability while wearing no armor, leather armor, or studded leather armor, may cast Druidic spells starting at level 8, alignment restricted to good, hit die D10, prime requisites for dual classing, Strength, Dexterity, and Wisdom. We have 1 point to distribute into a weapon proficiency slot, so we put it into Longbow, giving him a total of 2.
Let's talk more fight.
Let's have a look at his gear. He has little armor, but is armed with a 2-handed sword. And Boo. Boo is a funny little hamster. While Minsk believes that Boo is a miniature giant space hamster, we are quite certain that the tiny rodent is just a normal hamster. Boo has a weight of 1, and only usable by Minsk. We equip Minsk with better armor, then head toward the Nashkel Church to revive Kagan. As we walk the path leading into the church, we pass a grave that says, "Here lies Tobin, who believed in the good of all, died at the hands of zombies whilst asking for directions."
Helm watch over thee upon thy quest.
It will be done.
Helm watch over thee upon thy quest.
Inside the church, we recognize the priest Nalin from before, and we request that he raise Kagan from the dead. It seems the cost may be going up, as it's now 400 gold to raise the dead.
Kagan.
I don't want to talk.
We check our journal to get our bearings on Kagan's personal quest once again. He needs to find the missing noble, who is the son of Entar Silvershield. We really don't know where to begin our search. We keep his quest on the back burner.
Yes?
Minsk, however, has a pressing quest of rescuing his friend Dynaheir, who is imprisoned to the west. There is also still the Nashkel Mines, which is where our main quest is located. We decide to head west to attempt rescuing Dynaheir, and possibly get clues to solving Kagan's quest along the way. We exit the church and head into the Nashkel shop.
With ease.
Business has been poor, what with the iron shortage and all.
Here, we purchase a longbow for Minsk, numerous quivers of arrows, and a flail for Gorilla, so he can free up one hand and switch back to using his shield.
Go pester someone else.
A quick stop at the Nashkel Inn to sleep in an actual bed, prior to departing on a long journey to the west.
Never had rats. No sorry.
No drinks this time, and we choose the noble room for 5 gold. Eight hours later, we heal up and depart at nightfall. We see the Knoll stronghold on our map, but it's far west and unreachable. It appears to be on the other side of a wide and bendy river, of which we do not see a way to cross. Thus, we head to an unknown area on the way there to search for a possible way in. 10 hours later,
you have been waylaid by enemies and must defend yourself.
I'm gone.
You mess with me, you mess with you.
we're ambushed by a pair of Ogrelons on the road.
Time for some.
We quickly dispatch the first, and gain 175 experience. Minsk takes 1 crushing damage from the second, but counters with a devastating strike for 16 slashing damage, finishing the Ogrelon, and leaving a solid first impression with us. We continue west. Another 10 hours later, and we arrive in a mountainous area in the wilderness just around sunset.
It will be done.
The elevations are so tall that shadows obscure the path in darkness. We begin west, but reach an impassable mountain wall, so we follow the trail south. A dirt path in the grass leads us around the mountain, and we locate a tight trail leading upward. Our first battle in the area is with two Zarts, who rush down on the party from above.
Or possibly Frosty.
I don't want to talk.
I stand ready.
The first falls to Kagan's axe for 8 slashing damage. The second, 4 missile damage from Imoen, and 15 slashing from Minsk's sword. 35 experience per enemy. We follow the trail upward, and find ourselves face to face with an entire encampment of more Zarts. The 2 they sent out must have been scouts. Our party quickly attempts to get into formation as numerous Zarts rush after Gorilla.
Humanoids, sky-suckers.
Imoen peppers them with arrows,
Go for the eyes, Boo! Go for the eyes!
and Minsk takes out the first with 15 slashing damage. Kagan swings at another, connecting for 6 slashing, but also breaking his axe from the impact, leaving him unarmed in the midst of the chaos. One of the Zarts notices Nira and chases after her. Nira falls back down the trail to join Imoen from a distance. The Zart doesn't give up and continues to chase after her. Another one up above suffers a morale failure, likely due to Minsk's battle cry, and takes off running. Minsk runs and pulls the Zart off of Nira, giving her time to fire a magic missile at it. She takes it out with 8 magic damage. Kagan destroys another, but takes 2 piercing from another. Nira charges into the group. The angry Zart just keep funneling in from different directions. Minsk takes one out with 16 slashing, Imoen another with 6 missile damage. She lands a critical on another, and it takes off running due to a morale failure. Kagan, still unarmed and axeless, knocks one unconscious with his fists, with 3 non-lethal damage. Gorilla takes one out with 10 slashing damage. At this point, only 2 Zart remain, but 2 more rush out from around the bend.
I stand ready.
I need an arrow.
And Kagan takes 4 piercing damage from one of their claws, then another 5 piercing.
My blade will cut you down to size.
Imoen lands a critical shot and takes out yet another Zart. Kagan takes another 7 piercing, sending him in the red along with Minsk. Nira, still safe and distant next to Imoen, casts Nahal's Reckless Demir, and our list of spells comes up to choose from to use with it. We try a different one this time, Friends, to attempt making an ally out of one of the Zart. A wild surge occurs, and Nira turns herself into stone. This is treated similar to death, as it completely removes her from the party.
I stand ready.
Gorilla and Imoen take out the remaining 2 Zart.
Not a problem.
And the party walks over to Nira. She is now a statue, frozen in a spellcasting position. We have no spells, nor scrolls to free her from the prison she is now in, and we are quite far from civilization. We decide to make camp next to Nira's stone body, and decide the next course of action given the new circumstances. Gorilla, Imoen, Minsk, and Kagan sit at the campfire, recovering from the vicious battle. We recall seeing a stone-to-flesh scroll being sold somewhere in our travels, although we don't recall where exactly. If we continue on our way, we can attempt to rescue Minsk's companion, as we have no idea how long his friend will survive while imprisoned. If we do that, then we essentially abandon Nira out here in the wilderness. What happens to Nira in this frozen state? Does she eventually break out of it and find herself alone in these treacherous mountains? Or possibly worse, can a passing monster destroy her simply for its own amusement? As much as we desire to prioritize our commitment to Minsk, the thought of abandoning Nira out here alone for longer than necessary causes Gorilla to make the call to turn back. Imoen agrees.
Yep.
Minsk disagrees, but ultimately goes along with it, given that we do still plan to rescue Dynaheir.
If we be adventurers, let us adventure!
Kagan cares not who lives or dies,
Go pester someone else.
only that we eventually find his caravan in order for him to gain profit.
I don't want to talk.
The screaming of a Zard war party wakes you from your dream. Just as they were starting to get to the good parts.
I need an arrow.
They rush us from the remains of their war camp. Imoen fires and grazes one for 1 damage. Minsk equips his short bow and joins Imoen in firing arrows at the war party. Gorilla attempts a critical swing, but misses the crafty Zart. It retaliates and stabs him for 6 piercing damage with its dagger. Gorilla recovers and takes it out with 12 slashing damage. Minsk fires and takes it out with 8 damage. Kagan, now having equipped his crossbow due to his axe having shattered, tags the final Zart with 2 damage.
Let's talk more
You're a
fight.
queer fellow.
We loot the carnage and go back to sleep. Eight hours later, we wake up at hour 3 It's very dark, with only 2 healing spells usable per rest. Gorilla heals Minsk back to half health. Kagan is somehow completely healed after the rest, which is both impressive and odd, given that we typically only gain a few hit points per rest. We decide to finish clearing out the area before heading for the scroll, and continue up the mountain path. Dozens of daggers litter the ground we walk upon.
What you want?
Imoen casts Hide in Shadows, and scouts ahead.
I'm gone.
Past the thatch huts of the Tsar encampment, she spots a rogue Zart behind the huts lying in ambush.
My blade will cut you down to size.
And she makes quick work of it. To our left are dense rows of pines, and to the northeast is a large cave which leads inside of the mountain. We decide to head into the cave. Inside the dank, musty cave, bats hover around but don't bother with us. As soon as we move forward, a very large cave bear charges at us from a corner. Imoen immediately fires, and the bear takes 8 damage. The bear lashes out and crushes Gorilla for 5 damage, then takes 1 missile damage from Kagan. Gorilla lands a heavy slash for 9 damage, a combined total of 13 missile damage from the entire party's arrows, and the bear goes down, netting us 650 experience. We pay our respects to the bear, as our intention wasn't to come in and kill it. That said, it looks like it was guarding a bit of treasure here. We open a wooden crate to find an unidentified flail, a potion of fire resistance, and a pair of unidentified bracers. We put them away for Nira to have a look at later, and exit the cave. Heading further upward on the narrow trail, we battle with even more Zarts. Then reach a flat, grassy plateau high up on the canyon. Other than a nice view of the mountainside, we find nothing up here, and return back down to the encampment. Then head west. But outside of the camp, we see yet another group of Zart waiting for us by a pond. Oddly enough, they engage us in conversation this time.
You monsters! You kill us when we do nothing to you! Well, Ursa kill you! Ursa protect us! Because Ursa kind!
Says their leader, Nexlet, before we can explain that it was us who had to defend ourselves. We see Ursa, the cave bear he's referring to, and she charges straight for Nexlet. Another large group of Zart charge Gorilla. Minsk and Imoen fire at Nexlet and deal 7 damage collectively. Imoen tags Nexlet again for 2 damage.
Let's talk more fire.
And Ursa crushes Nexlet for another 2 damage. We equip Kagan with a flail, as it seems his crossbow bolts were doing very little damage, and he charges into the melee next to Gorilla. Imoen tags 1 Zart, Minsk another, who lands a critical shot for 14 damage, killing it. One of its angered comrades flanks Minsk, and pierces him for 7 damage, sending him into the red. Gorilla slashes another for 14 damage, and it goes down. Ursa goes for a critical, but misses. Imoen lands another shot on Nexlet, and Ursa misses him again. Imoen and Minsk fall back toward a large bonfire to gain distance. Minsk gets charged,
Stand ready.
and stabbed again for 6 piercing, sending him into critical status. Kagan trades blows with another, crushing it for 6 damage, but taking 4 piercing in return. It suffers a morale failure and runs for its life. Ursa continues to attack Nexlet and crushes him for 5 damage. Gorilla lands a devastating critical on another Zart for 26 damage, finishing it off. Another one of the terrified Zarts takes off running due to a morale failure. Ursa finally takes down Nexlet, finishing him with a heavy swat for 6 crushing damage, but Ursa isn't finished. Her next target is Gorilla, and she strikes him for 8 crushing, sending him into critical status as well. Minsk notices this and attempts to use one of his 2 skills, Charm Animal. He calmly walks over to Ursa, and success! Ursa turns around and finishes off the final Zart for 10 crushing damage. Ursa just looks at us, then sort of walks away. She then returns and follows us as we make our way west. As we reach the edge of a steep cliff, we see a man approaching from a trail.
Why, looky here! A finer bunch of adventurers I don't think I've ever seen. Though from the looks of it, you don't seem to be that well equipped. Well, you're in a lot of luck. I can solve all your problems. I have a huge collection of potions and scrolls, all for a cheap price. Right now, I can give you a potion of extra healing for 25 gold, A scroll of protection from petrification for 25 gold, or a scroll of protection from magic for 100 gold. So, what do you say?
How about the potion of extra healing?
This potion can be a lifesaver. Trust me.
We go our separate ways, wondering how these wandering merchants managed to find us in these remote locations. As we finish clearing out the rest of the area, Ursa returns to her senses. She hunts us down, but we lose her in the deep woods. Having finished exploring this area, we return to the east to locate the Scroll of Stone to Flesh. We stop in numerous towns, trying to track down the merchant who sold this item, with no luck. From Nashkel
Business has been poor, what with the iron shortage and all.
to the carnival,
Not a problem.
I've got the best prices this side of Cormier.
then far north to the temple east of Baragost.
With ease.
Finally, we visit Keldath Ormler once again.
With ease.
Don't touch me. I'm super important.
And there we see it in its stock for 190 gold. We pick up 2 for good measure, and heal our wounds while here for additional gold. Before heading west back to Nira, we make camp outside of the temple.
You point, I punch.
Upon awakening, Minsk begins to panic.
We take too long. My charge is in desperate peril. If we do not go now, you are a coward.
We pardon Minsk's tongue due to him being desperate to locate Dynaheir, and then head southwest to rescue both Nira and Dynaheir.
You have been waylaid by enemies and must defend yourself.
14 hours into our journey, a group of skeletons ambushes the party. We're still fairly tired and not yet fully healed.
Less talk, more fight.
After the quick battle, we arrive near the Zart village where Nira was turned to stone. As we approach her, we find ourselves hoping that our long journey was not in vain. Gorilla reads the instructions. This scroll will remove the effects of petrification from anyone afflicted by such an unfortunate condition. Simply approach the victim who has been turned to stone, read the scroll, and target the statue. Gorilla takes a deep breath, then reads the scroll.
Nira,
Uh-huh.
it worked. How do you feel?
Seriously? After all we've been through?
Gorilla then explains what actually happened to her, which dispels the confusion she had about being abandoned by the party. Now reunited, we check our gear and have Nira identify some items we've been holding on to. One of which is a flail +1, which Gorilla equips. A well-deserved rest under the stars above. And we head west to locate Minsk's friend. We pass an area of wilderness where we see a very long bridge, spanning the river which previously blocked us from reaching the Knoll stronghold. The journey to the bridge took 16 hours, and we arrive at hour 16. Here, we're in the wilds.
It will be done.
Inside a grove of tall pine trees, we see a large golden bear. So we attempt to go around it. As we do so, a pack of wild dogs attack us from a different direction.
My blade will cut you down to size.
Minsk immediately takes one out,
I'll do it!
but gets swiftly chomped by another.
You point, I punch.
After taking out the first pack, Another pack of war dogs flanks us from behind. A quick battle.
It will be done.
We walk upon the gray gravel, bordering the glimmering light blue river. The deep water is a sight to behold. It's vast, and it bends and winds in various directions. We follow it south, walking across rocks and passing small pine trees. As we near the wooden bridge, a terrified man runs over to us.
Oh, thank goodness somebody came by! There's a bear on the other side of that bridge, and it's coming this way! Please hold it off! I'll give you anything! I'll give you anything!
We get into combat formation, linear this time due to having to cross the narrow bridge. Gorilla at the vanguard, followed by Kagan, then Minsk, then Ewan for support, followed by Nira at the rear. It's a long trek across the slim but sturdy log bridge. And we eventually see the white bear at the end of it, blocking the path to the other side. It seems the merchant was correct. We have no choice but to prepare ourselves for the battle with the immense polar bear. As it charges, Minsk attempts to charm the animal,
I stand ready.
but it saves versus spell, and attacks him instead. Ewan fires, and the battle commences on the edge of the wooden bridge. The polar bear misses, and Gorilla lands a critical hit for 20 crushing damage, but the bear still has a lot of fight left in it, and it retaliates for 12 crushing. It strikes him again for 4 crushing, but receives 10 crushing from Gorilla. They continue to trade strikes, 14 crushing from Gorilla, 7 crushing from the polar bear, sending Gorilla to critical status. Gorilla slowly falls back, and Minsk lands a critical shot for 14 damage. The polar bear doesn't go down easy. We command Kagan to step into the front. He takes 13 crushing from the polar bear. Ewan lands a shot for 3, followed by another shot from Minsk for 3. Gorilla lands the final blow for 11 crushing, and the enormous bear goes down, netting us 900 experience. We return to the other side of the bridge to the merchant, who is still screaming in terror.
Oh, I thank you. That old lumbering oaf could have had me if it wasn't for young lumbering oafs like yourself. Here, if you're going to be wandering around these mountains for a while, you may need a better pair of boots. As for me, you couldn't pay me to stick around this place.
Told Jared I slew the bear. He did not linger after receiving the news.
We examine the pair of boots before leveling up Gorilla. Boots are normally handmade by cobblers. Common boots are made using a form, but good boots are designed for the foot of an individual. While we appreciate the sentiment, we really have little use for these boots that offer next to no protection. Gorilla's level up results. Thaka reduced by 1. Lay on hands increased by 2. Additional hit points gained 14.
So, after giving it some thought, I want to ask you a favor.
As the party takes a quick breather by the rushing water, Nira approaches Gorilla.
Certainly, Nira. What do you need?
Even though I first ran away because I was scared, I've begun to think I should find a way to reduce the unfortunate side effects of my otherwise awesome spells.
Aren't unfortunate side effects the main feature of wild magic?
It only seems that way because everyone forgets all the times my untamed magic made my spells more powerful. All anyone remembers is when I accidentally incinerated a classmate. Casting wild magic is like playing a flute by ear. I just kinda picked it up as I went along, doing what felt natural. In magical terms, I can play a pretty mean tune. But when I miss a note, the flute shoots fire at everyone. Also, the flute sometimes turns me into a hamster.
Oh, did you hear that, Boo? Maybe she will turn into a hamster, and we will have a little friend for you to wrestle.
Promise to keep him away from me if it does happen again.
No, it's been too long since we had a good hamster cage match.
Anyway, wild mages tend to keep to themselves for obvious reasons, but I've heard about one nearby. They say he's very old and wise.
And you think it can help you?
Hey, you're smarter than you look. That's exactly right. Someone who's lived so long with wild magic must be able to teach me a thing or two.
Who is this wild mage, and where can we find him?
His name is Adoy, and he was last spotted to the east of Firewine Bridge.
Then we'll look for him there.
Thanks. You're more than a convenient escape from vicious red wizards. You're a real pal.
Nira's become increasingly chatty. It's difficult to know whether she's becoming fond of me or just fond of teasing me. Her personality is as unpredictable as the spell she casts. One moment I think she's mocking me, the next, well, Perhaps she's still mocking me at that moment too. It's so hard to tell with her. Aloy, Nira has heard rumors of another wild mage. People say he lives somewhere east of the Firewine Bridge. If he has managed to survive to a ripe old age, despite the dangers of using wild magic, maybe you'll have some helpful advice for Nira. Also, I think Nira wants a flute.
The world map has been updated. The other side of the bridge leads to more tall pines and mountains. We encounter a wandering ogre berserker.
I will crush!
We send Kagan to the front this time,
Go past. Why me?
and the two trade blows. Minsk lands a shot for 6 damage, and Gorilla a blow for 10 crushing on the huge ogre. Kagan takes 13 slashing damage. We know from the past that this fight can go south within the blink of an eye, so Nira casts her magic missile, but it only takes 2 magic damage. The ogre slashes Kagan again for 15 damage, sending him into the red. This time, Minsk aims for its head, and delivers a whopping 16 missile damage, and the enormous foe's body falls to the ground with a loud thud. The party earns 29 gold, 700 experience, and Minsk levels up.
Let's talk more fight.
No weapon points, but his stacko gets reduced by 1, and he gains an additional 11 hit points. His weapon proficiencies remain the same. We continue exploring the dangerous but beautiful landscape. Due to Kagan's injuries, we send the versatile Minsk to the front lines behind Gorilla,
Cool one, sir.
and he swaps his longbow for his two-handed sword.
Full
I stand,
plate
not a
and
problem.
fucking steel.
His high dexterity and berserker style of fighting allows him to be useful with either weapon.
I will crush!
Yep.
Suddenly,
This way.
Emoen finds herself astray from the party, practically face to face with another ogre. She uses her quick reflexes to fall behind Gorilla and Minsk, and lands a critical shot for 12 damage. Gorilla lands a strike for 13 crushing, then gets slashed for 7 damage. Minsk lands a huge slash with his two-handed sword for 16 damage, and Emoen lands another arrow for 3 damage.
I don't want to talk.
Gorilla lands the final crushing blow with his flail for 10 damage, finishing it, and gaining 650 experience and 38 gold.
Yes? I stand ready.
As we continue northwest along the
will be
river,
done.
the sky grows darker, and a storm brews overhead. To our right, we discover a second bridge crossing the large body of water. To our left, a large pool, deep inside one of the ravines below. In front of us, next to a very tall pine tree, stands a person dressed in full armor who is facing in our direction.
Yes, friend?
As we get closer, we see that this paladin has short blonde hair and is armed with a long sword. Her
Yes,
name is
friend?
Laurel, and she speaks with us.
Ah, travelers. This wilderness is too expansive to keep clear of monsters all on my own. Many gibberlings pass through this very spot, day and night. Will you stay here and help me fend them off?
Yes, we would gladly join you for a while.
Wonderful. The gibberlings should be coming soon. You should prepare yourselves.
Immediately, large groups of gibberlings approach from both sides of the pine tree.
Yes?
My blade will cut you down to size.
The pack at 10 o'clock goes after Laurel, while the pack entering from 2 o'clock goes after the wounded gorilla. We try out Minsk's other ability, Berserk, and the melee ensues as the heavy rain pounds down on the warrior's heavy armor. Although they are numerous, the gibberlings go down fairly easily from our party's accurate attacks. As one goes after the wounded Kagan,
What is it this time?
Nira steps in to help.
I'll do it!
Gets clawed by one, then falls back. As the gibberling chases her, Minsk, in his chaotic rage, also chases Nira alongside the gibberling, with the intent of attacking her. The rest of the party battles in a cluster with the gibberlings, as Minsk continues to chase Nira in circles. Fortunately, he doesn't reach her, and he finally regains his senses before rejoining the attacks on the gibberlings.
I don't want to talk.
I care not.
Let's talk More fight.
The last Gibberling falls to Eowyn's bow. Numerous gems, gold, and spells now lie on the dirt. Laurel approaches once again.
Gibberlings are a plague that must be wiped from the Sword Coast. Perhaps we will meet again.
Laurel has introduced us to a most fascinating sport, Gibberling hunting. We'll have to rest up and rearm, but I dare say we shall visit her again.
Laurel walks away into the woods, and we gain 250 experience.
What you want?
You rang?
Yes? It will be done.
As we make our way along the steep canyon edge leading down into the water, we come across a very large bonfire. In front of it stands another very tall ogre.
I will crush.
As we draw near, surprisingly this one does not charge. We very cautiously approach the bonfire. It remains calm, so we approach, and it speaks in a rumbling voice.
You know Baldur now. We eat. We fight after me fat happy.
We respect his wish and continue on our way. As we continue north, Minsk's Berserker status ends, and he now loses the extra 15 hit points that he previously gained. As night begins to fall, the party makes camp. Hour 1, and the rain has stopped,
ready.
but darkness has arrived. We heal up just a little, and have Nira identify the pair of bracers. They turn out to be bracers of defense, AC 8. Bracers are thick bands of metal, or leather, that are strapped, belted, or tied to a character's forearm. Generally, the magic that is instilled in bracers is good only during combat, since most bracers help protect the wearer from injury, or improve their chances to strike an opponent. Exceptions do exist, though such specialized items are rare at best. Equipped abilities: minus armor class 8, weight 2. Nira equips them on her wrists, and her AC gets lowered from 7 to 5. We circle around, finish clearing the west side of the river,
Yes?
and once again pass by the ogre by
Not
the
a
bonfire.
problem.
We see if he's ready to fight.
I will crush. Me fight now then. Make you dessert. Pound you into pudding. Pudding.
Eat flaming! Frosty! Death!
He crushes the already wounded gorilla for 19 damage, immediately sending him into the red. In an attempt to defend gorilla, Imoen fires and lands a shot for 2 damage. 6 missile damage from Imoen, 9 crushing damage from gorilla. Its morale fails, and it takes off running. Imoen capitalizes and lands a precise shot to its back for 10 damage, finishing it. We gain 270 experience, and gorilla heals some of his HP back.
I stand ready. It will be done.
We loot a spell entitled Strength, and Nira examines it. Strength, of the Alteration School, Level 2, Casting Time 9, Area of Effect 1 creature, Range 20 feet. Application of this spell increases the strength of the character to 18, and then adds 50% bonus on top of this. The character receives any strength bonuses appropriate. However, This spell will actually lower a character's strength if it is already 19 or more, not usable by cleric or druid. Nira succeeds in copying the spell to her spellbook. She examines another scroll we previously found, entitled Slow. A slow spell causes a creature to move at half their normal rates. It negates haste, but does not otherwise affect magically hasted or slowed creatures. Slowed creatures have an armor class and attack penalty of -4, not usable by cleric or druid. The spell gets copied into her spellbook, and we have a quick glance at the book to see what's currently in her arsenal. On the aged, discolored parchment, we see numerous level 1 spells, such as Armor, Burning Hands, Chromatic Orb, Color Spray, Friends, Grease, Identify, Infravision, Larlock's Minor Drain, Magic Missile, Nahal's Reckless Dwemer, and Sleep. Under her section labeled Level 2, we see Chaos Shield, Melf's Acid Arrow, and Strength. We finish clearing this entire side, then head over to the second bridge to explore the eastern side of the river. The party gets into ideal positioning.
Butt kicking for goodness!
Minsk on one side of the hilltop by a thicket of pines.
You point, squeaky wheel, get the kick!
Stand back and watch this.
Nira on the other side of the hilltop, out of striking range. Gorilla at the bottom of the hill, ready to charge the enemy.
Let's talk
What you
more
want?
Emowyn attempts to set a snare trap at the entrance of the bridge, but fails, and joins Minsk on the top of the hill to get into firing position. With Gorilla being low on health, and Kagan being only mildly hurt, we temporarily put Kagan as team lead.
As leader, I plan to make us stinking rich. I need an help.
He complains and grudgingly walks across the bridge, in an attempt to lure out whatever else awaits us on the other side. He sees 2 Hobgoblin elite archers staring out into the water and grabs their attention. Kagan also notices at least 2 more monsters past the bridge, lying in ambush. It seems that the Hobgoblins are more organized than we thought, as instead of chasing us, they take up positions behind the bridge and send an Ogre Berserker out to chase us. Kagan runs back to the party with the Ogre not far behind, who is roughly 4 times the size of Kagan's short body, and the party then blitzes the Ogre Berserker. Minsk fires and lands numerous arrows in rapid succession. Nira rushes in and clubs the ogre with her staff for 5 damage, while Gorilla winds up a long swing and crushes him for 14 damage. The ogre, in a last-ditch effort, thrashes his sword downward and lands a strike on Gorilla for 10 damage, heavily wounding him. Gorilla counters for 22 crushing damage. Also, in a last-ditch effort, the ogre collapses on the dirt. Suddenly, one of the Hobgoblin elites appears on our side of the bridge and fires at Kagan. Emowyn and Minsk return fire and take it out with critical damage. With Gorilla being the only healer in the group, and having limited spells, the party returns to the top of the hill and takes cover behind a wall of stone to recuperate.
I feel this is my rightful place.
If time wasn't of the essence, we would rest and heal for longer, but we made a promise to Minsk to find his friend before it's too late. Prior to resting, Nira flips through the pages of her spellbook and decides upon Burning Hands, Chromatic Orb, and of course, her favorite spell, the powerful but unappreciated Nahal's Reckless Dwemer, which happens to be the very same spell that previously turned her to stone. She reviews the notes she took while back in school to familiarize herself once again. She recalls that Burning Hands is an alteration spell that affects one creature. To cast it properly, the wizard's hands must be held so as to send forth a fan-like sheet of flame. Her thumbs must touch each other, and the fingers must be spread. The Burning Hands send out searing flame jets from the wizard's fingertips of 5 feet in length, in a horizontal arc of about 120 degrees in front of the wizard. The target will suffer 1d3 points of damage, plus 2 points for every level of the caster, to a maximum of 1d3 plus 20 points of fire damage. A creature that successfully saves versus spell receives half damage. She turns her head so that no one in the party sees her reviewing the instructions for the highly destructive spells, then flips the page to Chromatic Orb. This spell causes a 2-foot diameter sphere to appear in the caster's hand. When thrown, the sphere heads unerringly to its target. The effect the orb has upon the target varies with the level of the caster. Time passes, and it's difficult to rest, knowing that the enemy is just on the other side of that bridge, waiting, or perhaps even searching for us. The heavy footsteps of ogres awaken us from our rest. We quickly grab for our weapons in hopes they haven't seen us yet. Minsk makes a sudden move, and the ogre charges. We wake the miserable Kagan.
I don't want to talk.
Given that none of the party has rested long enough to heal their wounds, we send a Kagan to the front lines.
All right.
Once again, and Minsk happily joins him.
You butt kicking for goodness!
I stand ready.
Emuin immediately lands a critical shot, while Nira bravely joins the front lines and attacks.
What is
The ogre now turns his attention from Minsk to Nira. As it chases her, Emuin lands a critical shot for 12 damage, followed by 12 slashing from Minsk, and 7 crushing from Kagan. The ogre falls. We gain 270 experience, and head back to the campfire. This time, our rest is uninterrupted. And we wake up 8 hours later, at hour 11, to a gorgeous sunlit landscape. Gorilla heals to 24 HP out of 56, and the rest of the party has rested almost to full health.
I stand ready. Not a problem.
We return to the bridge, this time fully prepared to lay siege to it.
Let's talk
What you
more
want?
fight.
This way.
We get into formation, and Emuin successfully sets a snare trap at the bridge entrance. Minsk takes cover up on the hillside, with Emuin next to him.
Full plate and packing steel.
My turn to save the day.
Nira lies hidden in an alcove in the mountains, while Gorilla positions himself right next to the snare trap, in plain sight. Kagan advances back across the bridge. It's quiet. His short legs take a few more steps forward. We hear only the sound of the water current, and the birds singing. Now, at the end of the bridge, he decides to fully cross onto the rocky soil. At this point, only a sole Hobgoblin elite remains, and it's possible that the rest of the enemy party has moved on. Kagan signals to the others, and together, they charge the bridge. The brave lone Hobgoblin stands his ground, and clips Kagan with an arrow for 5 damage. The arrow must have been dipped in poison, as Kagan rapidly continues to suffer 1 damage. 13 crushing damage from Gorilla, and 8 missile damage from Minsk causes the Hobgoblin to fall. 95 experience, and we loot some gold from its body. Now on the other side of the river, we push onward as Kagan continues to take damage from the poison arrow. Gorilla checks his pouch, and hands Kagan an antidote, which he quickly gulps down, without saying thank you.
I don't want to talk. Yeah? Not a problem.
Another Hobgoblin archer lies hidden in the woods.
Quiet. Onward.
And Minsk and Emuin pepper it with arrows. It goes berserk due to a morale failure, and Gorilla strikes it for 14 crushing damage. It explodes into bloody pieces.
It will be done.
We cross paths with another large golden bear, just wandering around the woods. It notices us. But neither us nor the bear wish to battle one another. Now closing in on having explored the entire area, we come across a man standing out in the open, geared in full heavy armor. Around him stand dense rows of pine trees, and we've seen this game before. He calls out to us.
Ah, weary travelers, well met. Neville, the fairest of all bandits, at your service. What may I do for you this hour?
Well, for starters, you can tell your men in the bushes to drop their bows and come out in the open.
Did you find all 5 of them then? Oh, pity. I shall have to train them better. Anyhow, I'm afraid that I can't abide by your wishes. My men would think me a coward to surrender in the face of such a paltry force. Truly, I see no other choice but to have them fire at will, and rob your sad corpses of any iron they may carry. Come, men! I believe the choice before us is clear.
Eat flaming, or possibly frosty, death!
Surprisingly, it's a band of hobgoblins that emerge from the forest behind him, as we expected humans. The party focuses on Neville first, and Nira casts Nahal's Reckless Swimmer into Magic Missile. Once again, a wild surge occurs. Just as we hear Nira say, oops, an enormous gate of fire appears in front of Neville. The ring of fire transforms into piles of skeletons. and suddenly a huge, winged demon emerges from the gate. The angry, devil-like creature is named Nabatsu, and it immediately casts silence, preventing anyone from casting spells in a 15-foot radius. Nabatsu casts Hold Person on the hobgoblins and Kagan. Kagan luckily breaks free, and Nabatsu chases our party while the hobgoblins rush to Neville's aid. Nabatsu is fairly slow due to its immense size. Imoen leads us into a small pocket of woods, while Nabatsu chases us with arms outstretched. It's too large to fit in between some of the gaps in between the tree trunks, so we manage to squeeze out of the other side and circle back to Neville and the hobgoblins. Kagan and Minsk go after the archers, while Imoen fires at Neville, immediately taking him out. 600 experience. As the battle continues, Nabatsu catches up and strikes at Nira, crushing her for 11 damage. But fortunately, 6 of it gets resisted, so she barely survives. As the hobgoblins continue firing arrows, Imoen gets tagged for 4 missile damage. The enraged Nabatsu continues to chase various members of the party. They lose Nabatsu behind tall trees once again as Imoen fires back, taking out one of the hobgoblins. At this point, Nabatsu is focusing solely on Nira and chases her around the woods, while the rest of the party attempts to finish the hobgoblins. Minsk takes one out with his two-handed sword, landing 15 slashing damage. Imoen peppers another with arrows for 6 damage. The final hobgoblin is tucked away in the trees and shoots Imoen for 6 missile damage. Minsk charges and takes it out with 12 slashing damage. Now, facing only Nabatsu, the party boldly decides to attempt fighting it this time, instead of running. Minsk uses Berserk.
You rang? Stand back and watch this.
And Nira again uses Nahal's Reckless Swimmer in conjunction with Chromatic Orb. Nabatsu easily resists Nira's level 1 spell. Once again angered with the audacity of the Wild Mage, Nabatsu commences chasing her while the party makes futile attempts to do any damage to Nabatsu.
What is it? Stand back and watch this.
Nabatsu turns around and uses Vampiric Touch on Kagan, causing 11 magic damage and transferring the HP to Nabatsu, who was still at full health.
Not feeling too good.
It crushes Kagan once again for 15 damage, sending him to critical health. This time the wounded party realizes it's time to cut their losses, and takes off running into the woods. Head first into a band of hobgoblins. Minsk, who is the least hurt of everyone, charges in to intercept the hobgoblins. Fortunately, Nabatsu's time on this plane has run out, and it vanishes into thin air. From another direction, a pack of wild dogs flanks the rest of the party. As per usual, the wild dogs target Kagan. Angered by the commotion, a large brown bear approaches and prowls the area, adding further chaos to the battle. We focus our attention on the hobgoblins attacking Minsk. Imoen lands a shot for 6 missile damage, and Nira finishes it off with her staff for 6 crushing damage. At this point, emergency measures are needed, but we have no healing potions in our inventory. Minsk takes out another with 22 slashing damage. One of the dogs chases Nira, who is down to critical health. A hobgoblin gets overwhelmed by the chaos and takes off running due to morale failure. Minsk takes out another hobgoblin with 14 slashing damage. The battle-frenzied Minsk takes out another wild dog with 22 slashing damage. Imoen shoots another for 8 damage, while Nira finishes it with 4 crushing damage. Minsk takes out yet another with 22 slashing damage once again, but also gets bit by one for 3 piercing damage. Meanwhile, Imoen targets the hobgoblin attempting to escape, and finishes him with 4 missile damage. Minsk takes out another wild dog with 14 damage, and Kagan gets bit for 4 piercing damage. 2 dogs left, and one falls to Minsk's sword for 22 slashing damage. The final one falls to Gorilla's flail for 12 crushing damage. But Minsk continues his berserker rage and attacks Gorilla. We quickly snap him out of it, and the party nearly collapses. Somehow, each of us managed to survive, and in one piece.
Let's talk more fight.
Among the loot in front of us is a potion of insight, gold, jewelry, and a new spell entitled Shocking Grasp. Minsk grabs one of the bloodied horned helmets and equips it, in hopes of it protecting him from yet another blow to the head.
I stand ready.
According to our map, that seems to be the final area of wilderness left to cross before reaching the Knoll Stronghold. We make camp before departing in a corner by the river's shore. In a tent by the fire, Nira memorizes her spells for the next day. She chooses color spray, Nahal's reckless dwemer, and grease, which covers a material surface with a slippery layer of a fatty, greasy nature. Looking back on the day, we realize what an invaluable teammate Minsk has been as we continue to track down his imprisoned companion. When asked about his past, Minsk proudly announces that he is a berserker warrior from the nation of Rashomon in the utter east. He is currently undertaking his Djemma, a ritual journey to manhood, and is seeking adventure and glory in battle. It is also his honor to be the bodyguard of a young witch Lauren of Rashomon named Dynaheir, and if anyone tries to harm her, he will beat sense into their heads until they reconsider. He is unsure as to why she has led him to the Sword Coast, but his loyalty is unquestioning. If he serves her well and distinguishes himself in battle, he hopes to be accepted into the Ice Dragon Berserker Lodge upon returning to their homeland. So far, Minsk considers his most notable experience in the world abroad to be the acquisition of his animal companion Boo, a creature that he claims is a miniature giant space hamster. Apparently such things do exist in the realms, but Minsk has surely taken too many blows to the head. He seems a good-natured fellow, but is too willing to indulge in his berserk nature. Upon awakening, we depart for the Knoll Stronghold, which lies only a few hours to the southeast. We arrive at hour 1, dead of the night, and stand in front of a wide bridge nestled atop a windy cliff. Far down below is a rushing body of water. We get into linear formation on the bridge, with Gorilla in the front, followed by Kagan, Minsk, Imoen, then Nira.
Uh-huh. My turn to save the day.
It will be done.
Me now. Me hungry.
As we reach the end of the bridge, we see two something
Smell good.
waiting for us atop the adjacent cliff. They appear to be human-sized, muscle-bound ogres.
Stop. You go nowhere. This our bridge. You pay to walk it.
Says Gnarl, the first one. His companion, Hairtooth, chimes in.
Yeah, you pay. 200 for all heads, or lose heads.
Gorilla approaches.
Isn't 200 a little steep? Do I look like I have that kind of coin?
Okay. Maybe 200 gold too much. You pay 100 gold.
Gnarl finalizes the enticing offer and says,
100 gold for all heads, or lose heads. Pretty good deal.
No, still too much, I think. I'd rather take a long route around.
Your head so dumb, you'll not miss it.
Says Gnarl.
Yeah, we kill you, take stuff, and get gold anyway. Dumb head.
Says Hairtooth as Imoen fires at Gnarl. Landing an arrow for 3 damage. The battle commences on the rope and plank bridge, and Gnarl takes 13 crushing damage from Gorilla's flail. Minsk finishes him off with 17 slashing damage, and the party then focuses on Hairtooth. Imoen tags him for 2 missile damage. Gorilla crushes him for 14 damage, as Kagan takes 9 crushing damage from Hairtooth. Minsk ends the battle with 13 slashing damage to Hairtooth, sending his body parts flying down into the deep ravine below us. We loot a pair of unidentified gauntlets, gems, and a potion of Hill Giant strength, which should come in handy. The treacherous paths here bend and wind in different directions.
You rang?
I care not. I've done had enough of this.
Dead trees line the steep cliffs we walk. The path forks here, with one trail leading upward and one leading west. Imoen sneaks down the path leading west. Here, she notices wooden poles stuck in the ground, but it's too dark to make out what they are exactly. She reaches a makeshift entry gate built with tall wooden stakes. Hanging from the end posts are skulls and tattered flags. This has to be the stronghold where Minsk's friend is being held. Imoen uses hide in shadows and scouts the northern path leading upward. She doesn't notice anything at first glance, so descends back down toward the party.
It will be done.
As they advance toward the gate, the party is met with an organized band of tall, muscular, wolf-like creatures, armed with sharp harpoons. Minsk knows that these have to be the creatures that captured his companion. He becomes enraged.
What is it my turn to save?
And the battle to rescue Dynaheir commences.
What you want? I'm gone.
Episode narrated by Brandon Cole. Brandon is a blind accessibility advocate and consultant. He's also a voice actor and narrator, and he's performed roles in mainstream games such as Pillars of Eternity, and it's awesome to have him here. It's an honor. Please check out his website at brandoncole.net. There's a lot of useful and good info on there. I actually enjoy the content quite a bit. You can also check out his YouTube and Twitch, which are listed below. Thank you to Remy Chartier, who performed the voice work for Minsk, Furret, the gem salesman, Jared, the terrified explorer, Neville, the bandit, the fairest of all bandits, Gnarl, the ogre on the bridge, and Nexlet, the Zart leader. Remy is a visually impaired voice actor, a sound designer, writer, and composer. He also designs audio theater. I actually just finished listening to an audio theater performance that he put together. So I never heard one before, but I got lost in the atmosphere that he created. It was just really awesome, the whole way he put it together. You can hear a lot of his performances on his SoundCloud listed below. It's really awesome. You can also reach him via his email below. Thank you to Renee Kim, who provided the voice work for Laurel, the Paladin in the Woods. Renee is an up-and-coming voice actress with big ambitions. She's worked for years on different character voices and adding versatility to her vocal range, so she can ensure she meets every client's needs. She loves doing voice work and narration. It's a huge passion of hers to see projects come to life via voice acting. She now has 5 big projects under her belt and would love to add more. Thus, if you would like to reach Renee, both her email and Discord are listed below. And thank you to Clement Chow, who performed the voice work for Borda, the Merchant, Olcaster, the Ghost, the Hungry Ogre. Clement is an aspiring voice actor, and has recently delved into music composition for games. He has a very unique style, and it's awesome to have him performing voices. If you would like to reach out to Clement, his email is listed below. And I thank you for joining us.
Oh god. The gag reel is going to be real, isn't it? And it's going to be in an episode, isn't it? Gorilla attempts a critical strike. We're going to have a critical strike party here. Minsk cannot take many more blows to head. Boo knows. That seems to be the final area of wilderness left to cross before reaching the Knoll stronghold. Yes, I caught it. Alright. In Braille, N is very similar to O. Leave me alone. I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, I'm not kidding about the Braille being similar, but... Voice actor life. Gorilla attempts a quit. I did it again. This is my life now. To cast it properly. Beep. Must be held. To cast it properly, the wizard's hands must be held forth. No. It's always the ones you don't expect. To cast it properly, one letter. So we can fire. Cast. How the heck do you pronounce that? We're gonna go with this. Cast Nahal's Reckless Demir. Large cave bear. Charge it as. Oh my goodness. I can do this. Gotta believe like Parappa. We try out Minsk. Oh my. Minsk. I swear. Your name. Minsk takes out yet another with 22 slashing damage. And finishes him. What is it with that word? And it finishes him with 4 missile damage. Yes! But I realize that now what you're going to do is you're going to make every single monster die with the words finishes it. Every single one. Okay, well, I'm prepared. Don't worry. I know how you react to, to mistakes that I make. I know. I see you. I don't, but I can pretend. Smashing damage. This damage is smashing, let me tell you. I've seen some damage in my day, but this damage right here, this is smashing damage, my god. The rest of the party glabbers and... Glabbers? You can fire me. You can... just... Yep. That's the highlight. That's the one you take and you keep forever, and you say, remember that Brandon guy who has been in all those video games now and has all those credits to his name? Yeah, I remember when he said glabbers. No, you don't believe me? I have proof. It's right here. Sorry. Nahal's Reckless... That word. I don't even remember how to pronounce it last time. Nahal's Reckless Dwomer. We're gonna go with Dwomer because, I don't know. That's a weird word. Killing the ogre. Polly Shore. Here to tell you how good that hit was, bro. No, that's not Polly Shore. That's not even a good Polly Shore. Great hitting, bro! Of the ogre's cohort. Oh, cohorts. It's a fun word. And of course, her favorite spell. The powerful but unappreciated Melf's... No. How did I even... It's like I wanted her to use Melf's Acid Arrow. You really put the word glabbers in the script? Really, Gorilla? Is that what we're doing now? What does that even mean? Do you know? I don't. But you know what? You know what I do? I give clients what they want. Yes, I do. This is happening because of you. Remember that, Gorilla. This is your doing, okay? Okay. I want you to know that. Okay. I can't even take this seriously. Oh no. Okay. This is very difficult. Okay. The party glabbers. So my laptop decided to scroll all the way back up to the top of the document. Thanks, laptop. You're the best. Minsk make meat. Make the mince meat. You know, make the mince meat. I like this line. We wake the miserable Kagan. I mean, that was pretty good, but the other one was way better, bro. This time, our rest is uninterrupted, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody exploded into a pile of flesh and bones for the whole rest period. It's a good thing we're magical creatures, isn't it? It explodes into bloody pieces. That's a bad day. I went berserk and then exploded. It's my hobgoblin for you. Spare no one! I know what they sound like. I'm a Baldur's Gate veteran. Calls out to us. How dare you? I have to razz you on this, because this is a razz on me. The party glabbers. There, I did it with a straight face. That's a dog. I don't know if you can hear the dog in the background, but that's a dog. That dog means I got a thing in the mail. That's probably what's going on right now. I should probably redo that line, huh? Nabasu easily resists Nira's level 1 scale. I'm gonna cast a scale on you. You ain't gonna like my scale. It's a death scale. I never thought you could cast a spell there, boyo. And recalls one of her teachers talking in great detail about the highly sought after level 100 spell, Glabber. Are you really? I did it, okay? I did it. I did it for you. I hope that you are proud of the monster that you have created. Only you are gonna get that joke. And Nira finishes it up. Oh my goodness. There's no answers. There are no answers. And Nira finishes it. Oh my goodness, I can't even. And Nira finishes it. Oh my. Finishes it. Finishes it. Finishes it. Finishes. A nice, cool, refreshing goblin soda. Pronunciations of fantasy words. Okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. When asked about his past, Minsk proudly announces that he is a berserker warrior from the nation of Raishman. And we depult. We dearly departed. We're gathered here today to celebrate the loss of Brandon Cole, who just couldn't hack it. As we reach the end of the bridge, we see dead trees line the steep cliffs we walk. Clips? I just said clips. Good thing I caught it. I almost didn't catch it. Oh, I did it. I can't believe it. I actually finished it.